Ether. Miriam has passed away. And now we want to mobilize and go forward. And Moshe sends Malachim, a group of what? Messengers from Kadesh, where they are, the same place from the sin of the spies apparently. El Melech Edom, and saying, look, this is your brother Israel. How are we the brother of Edom? Esav and Yaakov Avinu were brothers. By the way, do you remember the famous statement we used in our studies in Bereshit for those that were here? The Ramban would often bring, when we're studying Bereshit, Genesis, Masei Avot Siman Labanim. Do anyone remember that expression? What happens to the patriarchs? Very good. Remember that, Ranan? Will be a sign that will happen to the sons. Who also sent messengers to the original? Yaakov sent messengers to Esav. So we see the same thing. Now the nation of Israel is sending messengers to meet up with this kind, the king of Edom. Look, they have a king. They're a nation. They have a republic already. And what is the request? Before the request, we see in verses 14 and 15 a really sad story. We've gone through terrible life the last 40 years. You know what happened? We were in Mitzrayim. You know what the Egyptians did bad to us. We screamed out, God heard our voice, and he took us out of Mitzrayim. And now we're sitting at the edge of your border, somewhere in the desert, south, west of Edom. Let us pass, please. Apparently they studied good English manners. Na, bra, na. It's not too Israeli, is it, Shmuel? You see the word na? Gentlemen, you'll see the two-letter word na. Na, bra, na. Bevakasha. Na, do you see it in verse 17? Na, bra, na ve'artecha. And we're told a promise. We're not going to go through your fields or your vineyards. We're not going to cause you economic damage. V'lo nishtem me'ber. We're not going to take the water supply away from you. Derech hamelech nilech. We'll go on your I-95 highway. We won't leave to the right, won't leave to the left. Okay? Until we pass. Pasuk Yudchet, verse 18. Vayomer elav Edom. Lo ta'avor bi. Pen b'cherav etzel likrotecha. Wow. Is that a very polite reply by our cousins? I want to understand a few things here. Why are we going there and not going straight up? One answer? What did we hear 40 years ago?
The giants.
What a Nephilim.
When God, in his majestic way of splitting the sea, and we saw the hand of God, and we saw how the army of Egypt perished in the water when the waves came back on them, and we came on the other side alive. All of Israel was on a prophetic level of song of praise and prophecy in the future. And what was prophetically, what did we learn in their prophecy regarding Edom?
They were shocked.
Shocked?
Trembling.
What was the wording? Remember? We say it every day in the Psukei de Zimra. And what does it say? Yochazemu Rad. Aluf, right. We heard that 40 years ago. Maybe we're going this way to see the realization of that prophecy. What happens though? When you hear a prophecy, and that happened 40 years ago, could it have been that 40 years ago they were trembling? Does it seem to be now that they're trembling?
Yes.
I don't think so.
No.
Come on.
They're ready to fight.
They're fighting. They're ready to fight.
They're insecure, right?
I'm not so sure they're insecure. I think they're very sure of themselves. Lo ta'avor. Look at the wording in verse 18. Lo ta'avor li pen b'cher v'etzel likrotecha. Okay, let's challenge him. Bnei Yisrael tries a second time. A second mission. Okay, in Pasuk number 19. This time we'll travel where? Bamisila na'aleh. Okay, we'll go on the side roads, the back roads. Okay, we won't go on your major highways. What is the reply of Edom in Pasuk 20? Vayomer 2 words. Lo ta'avor. Not only 2 words, but they mobilized their soldiers. Vayetze Edom likrato bi'am kaved u'v'yad chazaka. Do you see insecurity? I see a clear threat to war against us. They're threatening us. So our question, I want to just summarize, and then here I'd like to hear what you're going to say, Gabi. We asked, why are we going there? And maybe we suggested an answer to see the realization of the prophecy that the nation sung together at the splitting of the sea. Furthermore, when you saw the speech of Moshe Rabbeinu in Dvarim chapter 2, did anyone notice something?
I think Seer let them pass through.
What is God commanding Moshe Rabbeinu at the beginning of the chapter? V'ta'am tzav le'mor atem ovrim b'gvul achechem b'nei Esav. Who's commanding who to travel that way?
Hashem.
You hear that?
Yeah.
The Yerushalmi Talmud says, quote, Divrei Torah aniyim b'makom echad v'ashirim b'makom acher. We just can't scrutinize this section and don't allow ourselves to see the big picture. When we learn Chumash and Tanakh, we have to try to see the big picture. And don't limit yourself to the details here. Here we see things, we don't understand the entire picture. But when you read the speech of Moshe Rabbeinu in Chumash Devarim, we see a clear instruction that God wants us to travel by the border of Bnei Esav. But he's telling us, don't be provocative. So we have 2 answers. Why? Maybe to see the realization of their fear. The promise, it's a promise of God. And number 2, God tells us to travel that way. Yet, it doesn't work. And I want to ask you a question. Why don't we fight them? If God is telling us, Al titgaruvam, don't be what? That means there are people, hey God, let us go. Just let me at them. Let me at them. I'm going to tear them apart. Do you understand that there is a group in Israel right now that wants to fight the Edomites, yes or no?
Yes.
And I'm asking myself, why are they so adamant to do so? What are they afraid of? Why do they want to fight? They've been traveling for 40 years. This is the generation that's going to be going in. If they're told not to fight, what might they think? Uh-oh, if we're going to be delayed in going back and this and that, who knows if we're ever going to go into the land of Israel? Maybe we're going to suffer a loss. Maybe we're not going to go in. Maybe we're going to sin a terrible sin. Could you understand their
Dilemma.
not only the dilemma, could you understand their motivation, why they want to fight? Because they fear if they're not going to fight, where are they going to go? The command is going to be, start walking backwards. Which direction? South. Very good. South. Towards
Mitzrayim?
Egypt.
Wow.
On road number 90, going towards Eilat. Oh no, not again. Maybe we're never going to go in. You understand? There's a dilemma here. Now I'd like to hear your questions.
Yes. Well, you said what happens to the fathers will be visited on the sons?
Masei avot siman lebanim. What happens to the patriarchs? We see thereafter a lot of similar events and matters happen to the children.
And Yaakov didn't attack Esau.
No, he was prepared for 3 things: a gift, prayer, and war. In the event that he would attack him, he had no choice. It's a matter of pikuach nefesh. But here we're told. What are we told? We back off. We see here that we back off. Your point or your question you'd like to make?
That maybe Edom not letting them pass is like
What's that?
Edom not letting them pass is like a form of fear.
You wanted to say like Michal.
Yeah.
But we backed off. It says, Am kaved, a lot of soldiers. Let me ask you a question. How much military practice do we have so far?
38 years of practice.
The first war was with Amalek. Actually, the first war was with Mitzrayim. Did we fight them?
No.
God says, you sit quietly and I'll fight. And then we did fight against Amalek. And since then, we really haven't had any wars. We don't have a lot of practice.
Only wars within.
Now the generation has died out. The new generation is living now. What practice did we have?
No, actually.
Very little training. Okay. So here we're getting an understanding that we can't fight them. When you read the rest of the speeches of Moshe Rabbeinu in Dvarim chapter 2, we're told not only can you not fight them, but you're not allowed to inherit their land. So let's just briefly talk about Edom, Ammon, and Moab. Edom is who? Achicha. In the language of the Torah, he's your brother. Ammon and Moab are the children of
Lot.
Bnei Lot. I want to explain something I learned from my dear father-in-law, Rabbi Horowitz. When you read the speeches of Moshe in Dvarim chapter 2, Moshe Rabbeinu is clearly told by God, you're not going to be inheriting the land because of your righteousness. It's not your righteousness.
It's His mercy.
It's the promise to the patriarchs, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. If I can try to find quickly. Kilo, לא בצדקתך וביושר לבבך. I don't spot it right away, so I don't want to take more time, but God says clearly you're not inheriting the land because you deserve it. You don't deserve it. We see the sinning, the complaining. Why? I promised your ancestors, Avraham, Yitzchak, I made a shavua, an oath, and I made a brit. Brit is a divine contract. Now, these three countries, which we showed on the map, okay? Let's go now from north to south. Right now, we're sitting in Yericho, and we're looking the other side, or sitting in Givat Asaf. I see the Moabite mountains opposite from where we live. So there's Ammon, Moab. I'm going down south. We're going to Edom. These three are not allowed to provoke and go to war. Why? They have their own rights. Edom has a right to their land because he's your brother. It's not yours. Don't fight him. Don't be provocative. Don't go to war to him. So too, Ammon and Moab, they have their lands as well. Why? Because they're from the children of, and Lot is the nephew of Avraham Avinu. God promised these children, which turn into nations, that they will have their own land in their own merit. Therefore, you can't take their land away. Don't fight them. Remember, we're only to go into the land of 7 nations called Eretz Canaan, which there are Shiv'ah Amei Canaan. In the future, we will be able to get what's called Eretz Asara Amamim. In the future, the Jewish people will not only have the western side of the land of Israel, but we will also have these three in the future, in the days of the final days, when the world will be more complete. We will be inheriting these 3 lands, as we're told in the prophets and also in the Chumash, Eretz Eser Amim, 7 of Canaanite of the west side, and 3 Edom, Ammon, and Moab. So here in our learning today, we're learning about movement, which we're divinely commanded to move to this area, not to go straight in. That would be the shortest path. To go to the Negev, Beersheba, let's say, go into the Hebron Mountains and inherit the land. No. God commanded us, as we see in the speech of Moshe, to go to Edom. There's a trial there. Apparently, their fear has dissipated. They were very fearful, maybe 40 years ago. But since then, what's happened to their senses? Who are the Jewish people? They're in the desert for 40 years. There's no fear on the side of the Edomites on the simple level. On the simple level. And therefore, we're not allowed to go there. Where do we have to travel? And we'll learn about that tomorrow in verse 4 of the next chapter. Vayisu mehor har derech Yam Suf. You hear that? After Aaron passes away in the mountain called Hor Hahar, we start going on which road? The Yam Suf road. Which direction is that?
South.
The Yam Suf is in the south.
Going very far south. I don't know if we really get to the Gulf of Eilat, which is the beginning of Yam Suf, commonly called in English
Akaba?
the Red Sea. Yam Suf in English is called the Red Sea. I don't know if we go that far down, but that's what we call in modern day Hebrew a schlep. From where we are right now to go all the way down on Highway 90 in order to go around the land of Edom. In other words, we're now leaving this area, going down south. If you can please, Yov Yosef, point to us, show to us how we're traveling now down south in order to go around the Edomite mountains and travel on the east. No, on the east. That's it. We're going to be going down south until we finish the Edomite mountains and then make a U-turn and go up east. Do you know what that means to the morale of the people? For this and more in tomorrow's shiur.
The verses there,
Steve.
Baruch.